Welcome to Awards Academy. I am Rachel and I'm going to be your host on today's session. So let me see if I can change the slide because I can't. Here we go. So I'm Rachel. I'm the community manager at Awards and I'm going to be hosting today's live session on Awards Academy, which is being streamed live onto YouTube. Awards Academy is an interactive learning platform. And we've got micro courses on there about motion design and creative portfolios. We've got some workshops coming up on interface design patterns and more. So do check it out. And remember, we are on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. So let's get to today's live. And we are very happy to be joined by Margot Gabel in Amsterdam. So yeah. Margot is going to be joining us today and talking us through accessibility. So in any second, she'll be joining us. So yeah, here she is, Margot. Hey, hello.
Hi, Rachel. Long time no see.
How are you, Margot?
Very good. Very excited to do this first session. It's the first time for me, so I hope it goes very well.
Yeah, we're really excited. We've got loads of people watching on YouTube who are really looking forward to it as well. So I'll just give you a little intro. Margot Gabel is lead designer at Build in Amsterdam. And so I'm just looking at your pictures here. I'm quite interested in the picture of the fingers. Can you talk us through that?
Yes, it was an artwork, which is a huge rug made out of silicone fingers. I really like tactile installation, so this is one of my favorite.
Well, it looks like a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm just going to remind everyone to ask your questions in the chat and then we'll come to them at the end of the session. And so now I'm just going to leave you with Margot for her presentation. Okay?
Awesome.
All right, so yeah, have a good one, Margot, and we'll see you at the end.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Hello, Internet. Thank you for having me for this, for my first ever Award Academy session. I'm very excited to talk you through my lecture today. So you already saw my name. I'm Margot Gabel. I'm a lead designer at Build in Amsterdam. And you might remember me from my talk in February at in Amsterdam Awards. And this is my company, Build in Amsterdam. We believe that our industry is blinded by numbers while conversion is driven by emotion. And this is why we build emotional clicks. How do we do this? We combine strategy, branding, and e-commerce, and we bridge the gap between on and offline touchpoints. We always aim to set the industry benchmark, and it repeatedly led to award-winning projects. We are actually one of the only company who win e-commerce of the year 3 times in a row. And my team, we are 30 people, designers, developers, strategists, and writers. And this is us before the pandemic. And this is us right now. We all work from home on Google Meet. But enough about us. Today, I'm going to talk about my obsession, which is web accessibility, and how you can turn it to your advantage. But first, a few words about our client, Mooi. Mooi means nice in Dutch, but with an extra O. And Mooi is a collective of designers that started in 2001. It was founded by Marcel Wonders and Casper Wiesters. And they create amazing products that range from this extravagant lining, photorealistic carpets, or tactile wall covering, amazing furniture that you might already know. For example, this is the horse lamp, which is the size of an actual horse. Or maybe the random lights created by Birchen Pot, which are in a lot of hotels and restaurants around the world. You might have visited their flagship store in Amsterdam, but they also have stores all around the world. But our story starts in New York City. And it actually started with a lawsuit because Mooi had a store in the US, in New York City. And have an accessible website, which is actually illegal. There was more than 2,000 lawsuits in web accessibility in the US only last year. And you might have heard about the most famous case. So Apple, Beyonce, Domino's Pizza as well got sued. But some of our own clients are also getting sued. Suit Supply, Adidas, Reebok. And since June 2019, having an accessible website is actually mandatory in Europe. So I'm sorry to announce you this, but you might get the next one. You might be the next one to get sued. So now you might ask, okay, what is accessibility? Why I need it and how we applied it. This is how I'm going to explain this complex subject. But if I had to sum it up in one sentence, accessibility means that your platform, your app, your website, your product needs to be used, can be used by anyone, because no two users are the same. You might first think of physical disabilities, but there's actually other kind of use case that tends to be overlooked. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and forget your glasses, this is what we call a temporary disability. If you look at your phone or a laptop in the sun, this is a situational disability. So there is plenty of occasions where you might not have a physical disability, but can still feel disabled, sorry. So now you might ask it, why do I need it? Well, it's quite simple. If you consider all these previous use cases that I mentioned, and add it to the 1 billion people that have a recognized disability in the world, well, you could actually reach more than 15% more people. So this is the best business case for your product. There is a lot of other benefits for accessibility. You support inclusion, you're better ranked in Google search results, you have a better overall usability, you're future-proof, but on top of it, well, you don't get a lawsuit. So now I'm going to show you how we applied it for the MOI project. But first, web accessibility is actually ruled by a set of guidelines. And these guidelines, they look like this. They are extremely long, extremely scary. I tried to read them all, but to be honest, it's impossible. So what we've done is that we actually seek for some help. We went to meet the people from the Accessibility Foundation, which is in Utrecht, and they helped us make audits and guide us through these guidelines, help us understand how to approach accessibility. There is an equivalent foundation in all the countries in Europe, so I invite you to actually check with them if you want some guidance. So with this in mind, we start our project with MOI. And at Build in Amsterdam, we think brand, not website. So we start by reading all the books, all the magazine, all the leaflets from MOI. We went to Milan last year, obviously, to discover all the new products. So we touched everything, we smell everything, we watch how their products are made. And we also tested them. And with all of this beautiful content in mind, we came up, or actually the concept came out by itself, actually, because a disability is a deprivation of one and more sense. So we thought, why not turning it around and make it our strength? So this is why we wanted to actually create a multi-sensory shopping experience, meaning that we are going to tickle more than one sense. So now with this in mind, I'm going to show you how we applied it a bit more in detail. First, let's take a look, at the look and feel. And at Build in Amsterdam, we always start with an inspiration phase. But what we found during that phase was this. These are actually the reference in accessible website design, government template, or this very big e-commerce like Target and Amazon. And to be honest, that was not inspiring at all. But good news, you can actually be accessible and beautiful. And for us, design starts with good typography. So this is our starting point. And I start extracting all the typefaces that I found across the print material from their magazine mostly. And you can see that there was a lot of them. And to be accessible, you have to make accessible typography choices. So first, I quite like this first one. It was called Gills are ultra bold. It's pretty weird, as you can see, but then some red flags can already be seen just in the name of the typeface. Look at this weird eye or this kerning, which is very confusing. Or if you look at this other typeface that we were interested in using in the beginning, we run into other issues. These characters are they're all different, but they look the same. So this is again a red flag against using this type of typography. The first on the left is a 1. Then you have a lowercase l, then a capital I. So this, for people who have cognitive disabilities, this is a huge issue because, well, these are confusing. Another thing to avoid is justified text. I know that some designers really like it, but this should be only used for print material, because someone with cognitive disability will only see this. These are rivers of white, and they are very disturbing for someone with this kind of disorder. So do not use justified text online. It's not accessible. With all of this in mind, then we started selecting 3 typefaces. So we could do beautiful pairing, a good hierarchy, but still having an interesting stylistic typographic choice. Once we choose our typefaces, we were able to choose our color. And here, very important is the background to your text ratio. So if you look on the bottom left of your screen, there is a rating with letter. So this one, for example, is AAA, means it's very good, and a number. And this number is the ratio of contrast between the background and the color of your typography. So here again, we choose the more black, which is not a real black, which has a very good ratio with white. If you work with visual or video, we always apply an automatic overlay, for example. So to ensure that the ratio is always above a certain level. For example, here it's 6. So to help you in this endeavor, you need tools. And this is, for example, my reference. This is a Figma plugin, but there is plenty of other ones that you can use. And as you can see, you can select colors and you get the contrast ratio. And on top of it, this one actually has some kind of interesting setups where you can see through the eyes of someone who have a different kind of color blindness. Once you have good color and typography choice, you can start building your design system. So each one of these elements has been tested to be fully accessible. And every state of these elements needs to be accessible, even the forms. So every state of your form, which is hover, focused, inactive, even the hero states, all of these needs to be accessible, as well as the dark mode, if you have one, for example. And once you have your building blocks, you can create some modules for your pages. And here you can see that we made a lot of different possible configuration for a client. And this is why in the CMS for our client as well, we put accessible options. So for example, if they upload a video, we will have automatic video controls. Or if they want to choose colors, we limit this to a certain amount of possibilities. So it's always accessible when it's live. And here you go, you have a website. But accessible does not mean static. As you can see, we are using animation with the typeface. We're having some floating elements. And some of the rules are, for example, that you should not have an animation that lasts more than 5 seconds or that is blinking. Another very important one is that it should never obstruct text. And this is why we built this kind of smart animations that are random, but that do not overlap the text in any way. Now let's take a look at the navigation. Moi has this technology called the button, and it is on top of all their products. It is an NFC chip that you can scan to claim the ownership of a product. And we thought that this was the entry point. This was your first, the entry point to the website. And this is why even for our wireframe face, the button was already there. This is how it looked. If you open the website right now on your phone, we thought that we could accommodate left or right-handed users. So you can actually drag the menu to the right, to the left, or to the middle of your screen if you want. But if you don't really like to use your finger, you can also use your voice. And that's where I call it my multi-modal approach, is where you give the users multiple entry points. Here, I could just use the menu, but I can also just use the voice search to find the rabbit lamp or the horse lamp I want. If you don't want to talk, you can use, well, your keyboard. If you're a keyboard user, we also got you covered. If I press tab on Moi, you will see hidden buttons, skip to content, for example, or these focus states that we design especially for every area on the website. So the branding is, so you still use the same branding through your focus state. We also did it on the Moi Experience website that was released a few months ago. If I click on the fish, you can see these little dotted lines or around the lamps here. And this is all through keyboard navigation. And about buttons as well, you also have to take care of screen readers. So if your button has a text label, it's fine. But if it is an icon button, then you will have in the code to write with a human language, preferably, what it is that you are going to do with this button. So if you have a download icon, then the screen reader is going to say, see the download. If you have a share icon, it's going to say, share the product. Always try to be as descriptive as possible, so it sounds good on a screen reader. Now let's take a look at the content. So Moi has really amazing content, photography, video. But yeah, let's take it back to when you forget your glasses this morning. So this is what you might see. And that's where alt text come onto the stage. If you use a screen reader, the invisible alt text that is uploaded with the image is going to be read by your screen reader. So if my sound wants to work,
composition with love sofa, open table and random black light,
it's going to read the image for you. On the product listing page, we also wanted to bring some life. So this is where you can interact with the product. This is also fully keyboard navigable. You can turn on the lamps, you can rotate the chairs, you can drag the telescopic floor lamp on the right, for example. So we really wanted to bring it to life. But what happens if you have a very old iPad, or that you're in your hometown village and you really don't have a good connection? So we also got you covered. So this is where we have the skeleton loading states. You can see them like shimmering on. I hope you can see them shimmering on your screen. So these are ensure that people know that something is loading in the background and do not go out of the website. And this has proven to be very efficient to keep people from dropping from your website. At Build, we say content is 80% of the design. So this is why we really invite you to always keep a hand on how the client is going to upload the content on the website. This is why we have very detailed guidelines on how to make content. And these guidelines are essentially accessibility oriented. So even the mailing modules that we created for them are accessible. So you really have to go beyond the website. We also give accessible guidelines for Instagram story, for example. Or if you are using socials, you should also make use of their own accessibility options. For example, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, I discover, have alt text options, so you can describe the image, and if someone is using a screen reader, then your own social post for your brands will be accessible. Now let's take a look at the buying process. We always wanted to have this inspirational entrance to any page, so this is why we have these video headers for different categories on the website, along with sound, and you can see that we are using this video accessible control here as well. And here again, I'm going to talk about the human language approach for screen reader. If you use the filter functions, for example, you can see that by selecting a color, a category, a designer, the title is going to change to something that sounds like a sentence. Black suspension lamp by Birchin Pot. So someone using a screen reader will not have a choppy filter read sentence. Here you have to use human language. And that's what we've done also for the product detail page, to still have a very inspirational approach with very large text, so you don't have to zoom in. Visual that fills in as much space as they can. And we really like this one message at a time approach, where it is easier to focus on the content if there is less thing happening on your screen. So we really like the calmness of it. This is something we wanted to bring to the buying process as well. So if you start looking into the option, we have a distraction-free, focused buying process with different, separated in different steps, to make the experience more calm and focused. And a few months ago, we actually took a step beyond and made our first pandemic-ready showcase. The Salon des Mobiliers event was cancelled back in March, so we had to replace it with a digital experience where Mooi could present their new product. So here we recreated different rooms with different atmosphere, with custom sounds effect, and you can still use it with your keyboard or a screen reader. This is a fully accessible, immersive experience. I really invite you to take a look at the website after this. So I think I'm kind of running out of time already. But so despite being accessible, we do not compromise on flexibility. So we allow our client to link a lot of different services. And so if you have more technical questions, please direct them to us through our social. So my developer team can answer your question and explain you how it works. Because, for example, we are using 3D configurators, we have the NFC buttons, and a lot of other very interesting functions that I can't explain right now. But now it's time to take notes. I promise it's going to be very short. So if there is one thing you should remember, even forget the other one, this is the most important. You have to treat web accessibility as a necessity, not a feature, because making the web accessible is a basic human right. You really have to take it in account from the beginning of your project, from the concepts, from the wireframes, to the content creation, to the code. The earlier, the better, I would say. But never think of it as an afterthought. It should be really integrated in your process. My second main point would be that please get human advisors. This is also very important. You can't learn it all yourself. It's very hard. So try to find an accessibility foundation that can help you and give you some advices. And it will make the process way easier for you. And my last point would be try to set the new industry benchmark. So accessibility is a very good excuse to innovate and to try to find new way of interacting with your user, trying new tools, and just basically have fun. We took this constraint as actually a strength to make this multi-sensory shopping experience. And I really invite you to do the same. So thank you very much for bearing with me, for listening to my talk. I invite you to follow us on our socials. And now I'm going to hand back over my virtual mic to Rachel so we can start the Q&A, my very first Q&A. So please be nice.
Thank you, Margot. That was excellent. That was so interesting. We've got so many questions for you, and we've got people from all over the world who want to say hello to you. I wanted just to tell you some people who wanted to say hello. Mihir said that they heard Margot speak at Digital Design Days back in May and reached out to her, and she was super nice and sent me some great resources.
Thank you very much.
And Nat really liked a quote of yours, accessibility doesn't mean static.
Thank you, Nat.
And a few people are discovering the website for the first time, so that's good. They're saying how awesome it is. Okay, so let's go to the questions. Okay, so I've got a question. If a project is already live, is there any exercises, test tools I can try to mimic some accessibility use cases?
Yes, thank you for that question. This is actually quite a fun one. I invite you to try it at home. If you have a project that is already live, try to just blindfold yourself. Install there is several plugins that you can install, like Chrome Vox for Chrome, and try to use your website solely with a screen reader. This will be quite a challenge, and you can already identify some errors. You can also just try to use only your keyboard, or maybe just your left hand or your non-dominant hand. This is another way of seeing issue, especially on mobile devices. Another test I would give you is to just try zooming in 200%. Things tend to break. This is another way of seeing errors. Or just dim your screen and just stand in the bright sun. Then you will see if your color contrasts are good, for example.
Oh wow, that is really good. I like the way of just trying to use it with the screen reader or with one hand or something.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, it's like obvious, but most people probably hadn't thought of that. Okay, another question. I saw some accessibility toolbars on big websites like Zara. What do you think about that?
So this is another very good question. A lot of big brands actually start using widgets and toolbars to kind of fix their website, but it doesn't protect them from lawsuits. So if you read the ADA report about accessibility, you will see that you can still get sued while using this toolbar and widget, because they are just on top of your website and they don't fix bad codes. It's like putting a plaster on a broken bone. So I wouldn't recommend this kind of solution for your own website. You should try to fix the errors in the code and improve the design instead of just pasting a widget on top of it.
Okay. And so we've got a question from Tal Arbel. He wants to know what is the name of the Figma plugin?
Oh yeah, so the one I shown in the beginning is called Able, A-B-L-E. But there is a lot of other plugins that you can use on Figma. I like this one because it's well designed and it's very simple. But yeah, there is plenty of other tools that you can use. You just need a tool that show you this ratio rating that I shown.
Okay. I've got a question from Saul. Nice presentation. Did you start the design with the mobile or desktop version?
Oh, that's a good question also. So we always design both together. Like we try to always design our website with a responsive approach, even mobile first sometime. So we really have all the possible use cases. So we don't favor one over the other.
Okay. Dean Burkitt wants to know, what about captions?
Hey, thanks, Dean, for that question. These captions are more for video content. So whenever it is possible, we ask more to have captions for interviews. But when a video is more, when they call it decorative in accessibility term, then you don't need to put captions. So it really depends on the content and the purpose of the video.
Okay. And we've got a question from Oscar. How was your experience with the company in terms of accessibility? Did they understand all the decisions that you made?
Hey, Oscar, thanks for the question. Well, they came to us with a lawsuit. So yes, they were pretty open to have as much accessible decision as possible. But yeah, we also had the foundation with us to help us make the right choice, and there was not any fight about that. So we had the foundation to help us, and all our decision from the beginning, from the wireframe phase as well, were guided by accessibility. So yes, they were very easy to work with on that sense.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, a question from Mihir. Hey Margot, while setting in the new industry benchmark, do you think all of us should work towards a web future where every single site app is accessible?
Hey Mihir, thank you for your question also. Yeah, this is a beautiful statement. Well, in my ideal future, the whole internet is accessible, especially now that more than, I think, 2/3 of the world is in front of a computer most of the time. We really need to make website apps as well, and anything digital accessible to everyone.
Okay. More questions. Do you think that web accessibility kills creativity?
Oh, that's a big question. But I don't think it kills creativity. It is a constraint, but yeah, for me, constraints are actually something that can make you more creative, because it gives you guidance, but it's also more challenging. So it really challenges your ideas and your conceptual thinking. It's something you should take as a strength instead of as a constraint. If that's a satisfying answer.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so what tools do you use at Build in Amsterdam to design and prototype?
Another good question. Well, for design, we mainly use Figma now. We switched to that tool. I can't remember exactly when, but yeah, before the pandemic, and it really turned out very useful because we can collaborate all together on the same files along with designer and developers. So this is our main working tool, and we do a bit of motion design sometimes. But yeah, most of the design work is on Figma.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when in my design process should I include web accessibility?
Another good question. As I mentioned at the end of my talk, this should really happen as early as possible. When you start concepting, when you start making wireframe drawings, it should be as early as possible, because then you don't have to go back and forth and trying to fix problems from when it's already live. So you really have to include it as early as possible.
Okay, nice. Question from Arthur Matix. Hey Margot, what about accessibility with AR and VR?
Oh, that's another tricky question. So these are not really domain we really looked into yet. but we might have to deal with AR with more actually, but these are just, it's an ongoing process for us. So yeah, I do not have knowledge about this, but this would be very interesting to know how to apply this thinking to the 3D environment. Very good question. I'm going to keep it for later.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back in a year and you can tell us.
Yes.
Okay, Garoria. Hi, Margot. In which direction will accessibility move in the future? Are there already tools for web designers and developers that accelerate the implementation process?
Yes, so there is plenty of tools, but the best tool is actually having actual people testing your website. So this is why we have the Accessibility Foundation performing human audits. So people will try the website with a set of tools defined by the World Wide Web Consortium, and will go through all the criteria and send you a big report and see whatever pass or not. So it is quite a big, it's a long process, but they are taking care of it for you. So I really invite you, to use smaller tools to check through the process. So you have different plugins, and you can find a lot of resources online. Maybe check the one from Google Accessibility. They have a very interesting set of tools that I don't know by name, but they are easy to find. Maybe I can share them later on. But yeah, that would be my process.
Okay, yeah, we can add some resources to the YouTube video so people can come back and see what we've added. Celso, very nice presentation. In Europe, for example, how do the rules work for accessibility? Can someone argue against your website for not having good accessibility?
So this is a good one, but I think anyone can actually complain to your company that your website is not accessible. It is the same if you try to sue a physical shop for not having a ramp or something. So I don't know all the details about this, but for example, the most famous case in the US was with the Domino's pizza. A blind person tried to order a pizza through the website, but couldn't use a screen reader and sue the company. And that's what made the news in the end. So I think actually everyone who's affected by the non-accessibility of your website can actually sue you.
Yeah, and imagine really wanting a pizza and not being able to,
No.
That would be bad. So a question, did the Mui's furniture designer participate in the discussion?
Not really. That would be interesting, I must say. But no, we were not. We did meet a few of the designers, for example, in Milan, but they did not really participate. I would say in the making of the website. Something we should maybe consider in the future for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Dean is asking, were people with disabilities involved in the process?
So yeah, through the Accessibility Foundation, they have test panels that also include disabled people.
Okay. And Marion, how do you handle the animation in terms of accessibility?
So there is a few set of rules that I mentioned. The thing is, things are a bit fizzy. So you have to. It's also on your own. You have to, feel if it's right or not. But if you really want to overuse animation, you need to display a way to turn it off. For example, for people who have vestibular disorder, for example, parallaxing, like very heavy parallaxing, is very disturbing. It also should not blink for people that have epilepsy problems. It should not last more than 5 seconds, should not go over the text. So you have to use it. It should make sense. You can use it for stylistic effects, but it should not impact your your navigation process.
And we've got a question from Cass. Hi, Margot. How did you land a job at Build in Amsterdam? That's what people want to know.
Well, you can shoot an email to jobs@buildinamsterdam.com. We're always hiring. But yeah, just try to say hi, and we can come back to you.
Okay, awesome. So have we got any more questions from anyone? We've had so many questions from people all over the world, so we're really pleased with that. Oh, Derek, how can I make horizontal scroll accessible?
Hi, Derek. That's a very good question. I would say if you can use it with your keyboard, then it should be accessible. But there is no exact rule about it in the accessibility guidelines that I shown. So I think it's something we should discuss with the foundation guys themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to create our own guidelines.
Okay, there you go, Derek. Well, we had a Paul from Area 17 says hello in the chat. He says it's a very interesting talk, and he's asked the question, I think you may have already covered it, but he's curious to how you scope accessibility work into a project. Is it considered from the very beginning?
Yeah, so for this project especially, it was considered from the beginning. And we try not to scope more time about it, but we did consider that we had to set up audits through the process to validate the code and the design across the process. But ideally, if you consider it, if you use it from the beginning, then if you consider it from the beginning, then it should not take extra time in your process. You just have, if you write good semantic code, if you consider it in a design from the beginning, then it should not be it should not take more time.
Okay, thanks for that. And got another question here. Any thoughts on email campaign accessibility, given how basic the code scope is?
Yeah, so this one is a tricky one. We try our best. Like it's a bit hard to make email fully accessible, but what we've done is that we gave them a set of guidelines with which typeface to use, which color to use, trying to have always so display well on different devices in different email clients. So we do a lot of testing, but there is no way to make them fully accessible because mailings are still quite old code. So I really hope that it's going to change in the future because newsletters are still quite old school, and there is only so much you can do to make them accessible.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so unless anyone has got any last minute questions for us, we were like, I'm amazed we had so many people joining us today from all over the world. Oh, we've got Hardith, hello Hardith, asking, how can we make graphs accessible?
Oh, this is also a good question, but it should start with good color and good typography. But we did not have to deal with graphs, so I'm unsure how to answer that question. But I guess yes, first making these accessible design choices will already make it good visually. Then I don't really know how you can deal with this for screen readers, for example. I guess it is the way that it should be coded and read afterwards by the screen reader. I don't have a satisfying answer for this. This would need some more research. But very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that looks like all the questions for today. So, Margot, thank you so much for joining us. It was a beautiful presentation, and it looked really awesome. So we're really happy to have you with us today. And let's see, any more question? One question. I read somewhere that you should have a text explaining the graph. That's what someone's chipped in. Hey, me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you can use some kind of a caption, and if you can sum it up in a sentence and that can be read by the screen reader, then I guess it's fine.
Okay, thanks for that, Amy. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching on YouTube, and thank you for all your questions and comments. And yeah, if you want to join our next live session, it's going to be Designing for Tech You Don't Get, and it's going to be with Juliana and Rinali, and that is on October the 1st at 5 p.m. Central European Time. So thank you very much for joining us and accompanying us. Remember to subscribe to YouTube, and you can watch all of our live sessions and conference talks again. And so thank you, Margot. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. I hope you really enjoyed my first ever Awards Academy session. And yeah, please, if you want to continue chatting with me, we can go through our Twitter or Instagram, or don't hesitate to shoot an email if you want to apply. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Rachel, again. And yeah, see you very soon, I hope, in real life, ideally.
Yes. See you soon. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. So yeah, jump on, contact Margot, contact us, and yeah, let's keep talking. Okay, well, thank you very much from us, and we'll see you next time on Awards Academy.
Yes. Bye-bye.